Literally following the events of the previous episode, Dr. Jackson, while his wound is being treated, desperately tries to convince the rest of SG-1 that he was inside an alternate reality, but they don't believe him and try to put it off as a vision or a dream or something like that. Fortunately, Captain Carter gives him a chance to explain, and he lists down all the significant differences between their and the other reality, but the defining event that triggers the Goa'uld attack happened in both: the death of Ra.
Alright, wait a minute, let me get something straight here. Engaged?
It is theoretically possible.
Suddenly, a pissed-off general enters alongside Lieutenant Colonel Samuels, who was promoted after organizing the first mission to Chulak. Said fresh colonel says that he works for a new division in the Pentagon, Stargate Mission Analysis. If that's not enough, a senator with the name of Kinsey, who is also the chairman of the Appropriation Committee, pressured the president to disclose details about the secret Area 52 project, as said project has consumed roughly $7.5 billion in a single year. SG-1 and General Hammond have been summoned to appear before said senator to testify the reports. Kinsey himself got permission to assess the program and, if he doesn't like what he hears, has the authority to cut any further funding of the SGC, effectively shutting the project down. Let's be real, this is already shady, but considering that this is a Black Ops program to begin with, the main problem is that in order to ensure a somewhat fair military trial, the US government would have to make the Stargate public, and that's not really an option. Later that day, Senator Robert Kinsey, portrayed by Ronnie Cox, arrives too late to the hearing and makes clear from the get-go that his prejudice is against the program. He refers to SG-1 as infamous. The SGC is called a money drain, and Tiak is spoken to with disgust. Yep, looks like a fair hearing, alright. Senator Kinsey outright tells all parties involved that he already made the decision to shut the entire thing down, but due to President's orders, he has to listen to what they have to say first. The conversation doesn't go anywhere because Kinsey gets caught up with a philosophical debate with Dr. Jackson when he compares the Stargate to the Pandora's box, and then gets down with Colonel O'Neill about the literal definition of what the word threat even means, when said officer tries to explain what the Goa'uld are. Jack loses his temper, accusing the senator of extreme bias, and was about to leave the meeting, but is reined back in by General Hammond. Now we get into the actual meat of the episode, which mostly consists of 20 minutes of flashbacks. Essentially, each member of SG-1 as well as General Hammond are questioned with the intention of finding damning evidence. Pretty much any decision they made is being painted as short-sighted, regardless of the results. To no one's surprise, Senator Kinsey makes a big speech about how this entire program is managed by a bunch of reckless, incompetent children. He packs his stuff and wants to leave like the posh jackass he is. Daniel stops him and tries to tell him about his experience in the alternate reality, but Senator Kinsey, after laughing at him, tries to bite back with logic and asks where the Goa'uld have been for so long, and why they would suddenly attack now when the timing is so perfect. Tia can easily answer that question by saying that the Goa'uld are constantly at war with each other, so the attacker, most likely Apophis, needs time to assemble a fleet to begin with. O'Neill accuses Kinsey of deliberately committing suicide out of sheer stupidity, which is when the senator's personal convictions start to show themselves, as he calls the United States the one nation under one god. The senator leaves the base and announces to shut the program down. Tiak and O'Neill both ask the general for permission to permanently leave Earth to continue the fight against the Goa'uld, but due to Senator Kinsey's orders, all further use of the Stargate is forbidden. The episode ends with the SGC in shambles. SG-1 is left with a purpose unfinished, knowing that an apocalyptic threat is approaching and nobody is going to help. And that was the 20th episode of the first season of Stargate SG-1. This video might come across as lazy or offensive, But even though this is not the worst episode of the first season, in my opinion it is among the worst. I mean, half of the time in this episode is spent in flashbacks, like we are still within the same season. We are up and running on the events happening. Just why would you need a flashback episode in the first season? I get it. Making TV shows in the 90s involved, naturally, different requirements than what we have today thanks to streaming and the likes. But I cannot remember that I personally ever enjoyed a flashback episode in any medium's first season. It's redundant in my opinion. Anyway, the character of Senator Kinsey will regularly appear in the upcoming seasons, and he will significantly shape the fate of Stargate Command. Robert Kinsey himself is a fantastic character, and you will love to hate him throughout the course of the entire series. I mean, he is the personification of the worst kind of politician, the hypocritical kind that believes their own lies. With that in mind, I hope you had an enjoyable time watching, and I may see you next time with the final episode of the first season of Stargate SG-1. Until then, have a good one.